1895, when Andrew Carnegie provided remarks at the opening of this facility and at this wonderful contribution and gift that he made to the city of Pittsburgh. And so these are excerpts from the lengthy remarks that he provided, which I thought were appropriate about issues that are important today, and really hope to send a message regarding what we believe about what needs to be done. Carnegie talked about how to deal with his wealth and what his responsibility and what his duty was as it related to how his legacy will be established and what he needed to do along those lines. So I'm going to read parts of this, and I think it's appropriate to kick off this afternoon's event. So here's what Mr. Carnegie said back on November 5th, 1895, here in Oakland. Citizens of the greater Pittsburgh that is to be, the library commissioners who have so admirably managed the trust committed to them, just some weeks ago. Now, it was nice when the sun came out. Hopefully Mr. Carnegie's not offended. Stirring up some winds here. But the library commissioners who have so admirably managed the trust committed to them expressed some weeks ago their desire that upon this occasion I should state the reasons which induced me to establish among you the institution about to be opened, and the objects which I had in view. And with your indulgence, I will do so now. To one to whom surplus comes, there comes also the question, what is my duty? What is the best use that can be made of it? The conclusion forced upon me, and which I retain, is this: that surplus wealth is a sacred trust, to be administered during life by its possessor for the best good of his fellow man. And I venture to predict the coming of the day at the dawn, of which indeed we already begin to see, that when a man who dies possessed of available millions, which are free in his hands to distribute, will die disgraced. What we must seek then for surplus wealth, if we are to work genuine good, are uses which give nothing for nothing, which require cooperation, self-help, and which, by no possibility, can tend to sap the spirit of manly independence, which is the only sure foundation upon which the steady improvement of our race can be built. We were soon led to see in the Free Library an institution which fulfilled these conditions, and which must work only for good and never for evil. It gives nothing for nothing. The taste for reading is one of the most precious possessions of life, and the successes of the Allegheny and Braddock libraries provides that the masses in this community truly appreciate this fact and are rapidly acquiring it. I should much rather be instrumental in bringing to the working men and women this taste than mere dollars. It is better than a fortune. When this library is supported by the community, as Pittsburgh is wisest to support her library, all taint of charity is dispelled. Every citizen of Pittsburgh, even the very humblest, now walk into his own library, for the poorest laborer contributes his mite indirectly to its support. The man who enters a library is in the best society this world affords. The good and the great welcome him, surround him, and humbly ask to be allowed to become his servants. And if he himself, from his own earnings, contributes to its support, he is more of a man than before. Mr. Mayor, before closing, let me say one word to you as representing the city of Pittsburgh. The city grows apace. This site, you remember, seen to be many, is not central. Today, it is certainly not too far east for the center of the greater Pittsburgh, which appears already on the horizon. The plan made for branch libraries may soon be inadequate and require further attention. Already, we have an important library at Braddock, which ranks with that of the Allegheny City. Its work is so valuable that a commission recently appointed to report upon institutions connected with vast industrial works has given it first place, a result for which we are chiefly indebted to Mr. and Mrs. Gailey. For some years, a surplus has been desired that I might be able to give similar library to Homestead, which he did, which is in my next use of wealth. I hope to be able to go forward with that in the coming year. We intend to follow that with a similar library for Duquesne, and hope also to be able to provide a library for a community which has been so partial as to adopt our name, much to the surprise of Mrs. Carnegie and myself. But I would not deny also, much to our satisfaction, for we should rather stand with all fellow citizens in and around Pittsburgh than receive the plaudits of all the world besides. By the time the greater Pittsburgh comes, we shall thus have several libraries, which may perhaps be thought best to incorporate with the general library system of Pittsburgh. Such other districts as may need branch libraries will ardently hope we may be able to supply, For to provide free libraries for all the people in Pittsburgh is a field which we would fain make our own as chief part of our life's work. Although it is desirous to preempt the library field, it will not be inferred that we see no other proposed use or proper use for surplus wealth, a list of which shall be most happily supplied to my inquiring millionaires upon application. I have dropped into the plural, for there is one always with me to prompt, encourage, suggest, discuss, and criticize, whose heart is as keenly in this work as my own, preferring it to any other as the best possible use of surplus funds, and without whose wise and zealous cooperation, I often feel little useful work can be done. Mrs. Carnegie. Mrs. Carnegie and myself, who have given this subject much thought and have had it upon our minds for years, survey tonight what has been done, the use of which we have put our surplus wealth, the community which we have devoted it, and say to ourselves, if we had the decision to make again, we should resolve to do so, precisely as we have done. We feel that we have made the best use of surplus wealth according to our judgment and conscience. Beyond that, it is not for us. It is for the citizens of Pittsburgh to decree whether the tree planted in your midst shall wither or grow, and grow and bear such fruit as shall best serve the county where my parents and myself first found in this land a home into which we owe so much. We now hand over this gift. Take it from one who loves Pittsburgh deeply and would serve her well. That's what Andrew Carnegie felt on November 5th, 1895. And I think that came in under the clock.